So my name's Kat Wartooth. I'm from Melbourne Metal Mates. I started Melbourne Metal Mates almost a year ago, 26th of April, because I didn't have anyone to go to Rotting Christ with, and I needed more black metal gig buddies. There are a lot of people talking about how they didn't have people to go to gigs with in a lot of the music forums I was seeing online. So I got permission from Dave Balfour at Metal Evolution to start my own version of what he was doing in Sydney, and that became Melbourne Metal Mates. We use Facebook just because it's got all the features we need, and that way no one has to pay. And basically, it's just a Facebook group and chats so that people can find people who are going to the same gigs they are, and then they don't have to go to gigs alone. And we also do meetups as well, so everyone can just sit around, talk about music, and make new friends.
That's awesome. And how do you think the community's grown since when you first started last year?
So I thought it'd probably be about 300 people when I started, and we just, have a beer, go to gigs, and that's it. It grew by 100 people a week for a really long time. It really, really took off. And I think we can thank the bands for that because a lot of the early members were musicians and they just sent it out to their whole friends list. So I was really, really lucky that I got support from musicians in Melbourne. And they helped me start it. And also the other admin, Jen, she's been in Melbourne for many, many years. I'm from Sydney. So she sent it to all of her friends and they sent it to their friends. And it just kept growing from there. And about a month in, everyone decided that we definitely needed to all meet in a big space. So we booked a table at the Beast of Brunswick. And yeah, everyone has been friends ever since. We've still got people from that original meetup that we see all the time. We call them the OG, the original crew. And yeah, we've all been hanging out ever since.
That's awesome. I was having a look before on Facebook and Instagram about like the Maniacs meetups and how frequent they are. Um, have you found like just reception to that has been great? Like, are you growing the number of people that actually come to those meetups?
Well, the meetups kind of stay static because it's usually where everyone starts out. So they might come to a meetup so that the gig meet is less scary, so they know a few people going already. So I tend to find that the meetups are, usually around 50 to 60 people, and it's usually a mixture of, people who come to every meetup and brand new members, which is great because then they already know the faces from the Instagram. We've got an introvert support post where people can actually go up to certain members that might be a little bit more friendly or a little bit more available, and have been around, Melbourne Metal Mates since the beginning, and they'll actually sit with them and make sure that they settle in before, because it's really intimidating. It's, walking into a pub full of 50 metalheads.
Yeah.
A lot of people tell me stories about, having anxiety about what band shirt to wear, and then they feel silly when they enter because everyone's so chill. So yeah, about 50 to 60 people, probably about half new, half existing members at most of them. And I think that the upcoming gig, which is also technically a meetup, is probably going to be a bit bigger than that.
Mm. Do you think that's helped get rid of those stereotypes about metalheads being like gatekeepers and they don't want new fans? Do you think the meetups and like your first anniversary gig has kind of helped get rid of the stigma behind being a metalhead?
I think so. I think also we represent a really diverse cross section of society. Like our youngest member is, 2 weeks over 18 at any given point because we don't allow people under 18 to join. And our oldest members are, approaching 60, if not over. So we have a really, really diverse group of people. So I think that kind of fights the stereotype, and that we all look so different. We're all in different professions and that sort of thing. A lot of tech represented, but we are mostly in, it's just a really accurate cross section of society, I think. Regarding the stereotypes about elitism and things like that, that was a deliberate choice. So in the rules, you're not allowed to make fun of other people's music taste. One thing I saw in a lot of the forums was people would speak up about a band and or they're new to metal and they, kind of going into those gateway bands, and they get a lot of people jump in the comments and, give them a hard time for not knowing some of the more obscure or older bands, and I didn't want that. So we're completely open that way. We're also multi-genre. So it's been really interesting because been a lot of people who've been in the metal scene for 10, 20 years or even for the last 5 years. And they're meeting people they've never met before because of the cross genre. And everyone's sharing music and getting into different genres as a result.
Mm. That like cross genre and diversity, I think, comes across in the lineup for your anniversary gig. You know, you've got Hybrid Nightmares, Bolt Hill, the Incantus, All Monsters Are Human. Is that also a deliberate choice to have such a wide ranging bands of different genres on there?
I was hoping that would happen, but it's all volunteer. So I didn't know for sure. I put the call out in the Facebook group, and these are the bands that answered and were able to fill the bill. I actually had no idea that I would get bands to speak either. So I was figuring, we'd have probably smaller sets of lots of up and coming bands, and was very pleasantly surprised when the first volunteers were Hybrid Nightmares, who, they're veterans, and the Incantus are award winners, and Vault Hill have been around for many, many years in the Melbourne metal scene. All Monsters Are Human are really, they're probably a bit newer, but, again, all the members have been in other bands as well. So it's been a really nice feeling that every genre wants to contribute, because that may not necessarily have been the case. But this is good because we've mixed up the lineup as well. So you've got kind of an even spread of the different, genres and different groups. And that way you get a more inclusive, genre mix the whole way through the gig.
Yeah. I mean, what's the reception been like from other bands around Melbourne? Like, do you guys connect with them well? Do they also connect well with the fans and the meetups?
Absolutely. So, for example, we've got a lot of bands that were with us from the beginning, like Witchgrinder and Voidfall, the Incantus, Hybrid, and Vault Hill. But we've also got a lot of, new and up and coming bands that have started filtering in as well. And it was really the bands that joined first and the people that work in the industry that joined first. And it's been really nice because everyone can, share their learnings and share their music. And ultimately, even the musicians, we're all fans. So we all have that in common, which is really, really nice. But we had a great one the other night. One of the bands had not one but two gigs have circumstances that we're going to shut down the gigs, and we just got a group chat together with everyone who knew the right people, and everyone brainstormed as to what they could do to make sure their gig still went off. So it's really nice that way, and that everyone helps each other. And in regards to whether they interact with the fans, they absolutely do. Sometimes accidentally. It gets a bit silly sometimes. We've got these gig chats so everyone can find each other at a gig, and people will kind of rev each other up and go, I made a Spotify playlist for the bands at this festival, if anyone wants to see it or what have you. And sometimes the bands and promoters will be in that, and it does get very funny because someone will be like, oh, I can't wait. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Munitions. So like, oh, I love Munitions. I can't wait to see them. I've been hanging out to see them forever. And Clinton, who's the lead singer of Munitions, was like, "Thanks, guys. I'm really pumped for this gig now," because he just happened to be in the gig chat, just so he could see what was going on. It's helpful for the promoters as well, because if they have any technical difficulties, delays, what have you, they can just message all the maniacs and they'll get the word out to everyone who's waiting or what have you, or pitch in to help if it's a smaller gig and they need the help.
Yeah. I think like I'm so impressed by how good the community is in Melbourne Metal Mates, just because, like, especially me coming out of COVID, like I didn't get to go to many shows before COVID. And there's so much talk about how etiquette's changed and how metal communities are different to what they were before. Was there an anxiety from you guys about starting something like this? Like, were you scared it either wouldn't take off or people would be too shy?
I kind of have been learning as I went. I am not naturally extroverted. So one of the reasons I probably needed gig buddies is because I'm not the kind of person who would normally approach people. I needed an excuse to do that. And I think a lot of our members feel the same. I think when you have people that appreciate music that usually requires you to play guitar for 8 hours a day by yourself, you're going to have a lot of introverts. So I think that our community is we do have like some extroverts, and thank goodness because they keep everyone talking. But we do have a majority of introverts as well, and it's been really nice watching people come out of their shells. And I think the reason that that happened was that everyone was very honest about, a lot of us have social anxiety. A lot of us, it's intimidating. The first meetup, I took a friend with me because I didn't want to go on my own. And it was really, really intimidating walking, into a room with 40 people, and the only person they know there from online is me. So that was, a huge deal. And I think a lot of people feel the same when they go to the meetups. And then over time, they find people who've been there longer, who've had the same experience, and they learn that kind of everyone's been there. There's a couple of stages, like people are shy and they don't know anyone. They start meeting people. They go to so many gigs that they have no money, and then they find an equilibrium somewhere in the middle. So yeah, it's a very interesting journey, and we all seem to make the same one of, being very intimidated at first, getting right into it, and completely overloading on gigs, and then finding that balance at the end of it. So yeah, it seems to be the same for everyone actually, even the extroverts.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you make a good point about just going to so many gigs and eventually being broke just because of how expensive gigs are, which is why like, it's so impressive that this anniversary gig is a free event to go to and to support all these bands. Can we expect more of that in the future? More anniversary gigs and more celebrations of Melbourne Metal Mates?
I hope so. It really relies on volunteer. The whole thing relies on volunteers, and it relies on people buying merch. We're just about to launch our t-shirts. We've already done patches. So it kind of relies on the people who can afford to helping, and the people who have time putting in their time, and the bands just having their schedules line up as well. So it will very much depend on who volunteers. I really hope that that happens. I don't see why not. I'll try to keep it as free or low cost as possible because a lot of our members are artists or students or starting out, and they've got a right to be in the scene as well. The other thing I would point out is that a lot of the bands we support and a lot of the bands that are members, they're local bands. Their gigs actually aren't that expensive. There was one I went to, I think, and a lot of them at Last Chance in the smaller venues, like Old Bar does a lot of free gigs, and the smaller venues tend to have gigs that are, $10, $20, and they're really affordable. So I hope people will actually, explore those gigs because sometimes you can get an internationally, international standard. We're very spoiled in Melbourne. We can get an international standard band that's doing a gig for $30. We're really, really lucky that way, in that our scene is that big. So I would say keep an eye out for those as well as future Metal Mates events as well. The meetups will be free as long as I can find venues that don't charge us. And we do lots of other free activities as well. Like, we did a beach meet and we did a mutts meetup where everyone brought their dogs and that sort of thing. So I'll always try and do low cost or free as much as I can. But yeah, it is reliant completely on volunteers. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, support your local artists and your bands. Um,
Yes, very, very much so.
yeah, I'm just gonna throw out that yeah, I'm a huge Hybrid Nightmares fan. I was
Yeah.
seeing them so often, and I'm so glad that they're a part of your community because they connect so well with their fans and you guys, and it's so cool to have them do this event and promote this. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a great moment with them from the first gig that we did where did a gig meet for them because nothing was filming their music video there. So we started a pit with ourselves because no one was jumping around. We're like, well, we can't have that. So we started a pit, and then it continued into the Hybrid Nightmares gig. And Adam and Loki were both members. Adam's a drummer, and he walked off stage and walked up to us and said, "This is all very wholesome." And we're like, "Absolutely not. Absolutely not wholesome. We will chant Satan at you for as long as we have to, prove that we're not wholesome and completely unhinged." So we've been chanting Satan at them ever since. So they always know when we're at a gig.
Well, that's probably everything and all we have time for. But thank you so much, and I hope the event goes well. And
Thank you.
everyone should go to it. Especially in Melbourne, the metal scene is incredible, and bands
Yeah,
like that playing is just something you have to go see.
Yes, and it's not a late gig. It is on a Sunday, but it's not going to end super late, so it's still work friendly. Also, please come because if we can prove that we can fill a venue doing these free gigs, then we've got more chance of doing it again. So the more people come, the more free gigs we can put on, and the better of an investment it'll be for future venues. So definitely come and represent if you like free gigs.